an idea as to who the other persons are around the table with us. So I'll start with the principal from Kingston Technical High School. If you could just say your name and institution you're from, even though I've already given it away, and then moving around the table from your right, coming around.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Delegates. I'm a 4-year-old teacher from the National Baptist Space.
Yes, so we'll come back to the panelists after. Holy Trinity? He said, yes, ma'am. I'm happy you said that because I thought you meant Woodford Park Road District. Okay, cool. All right, thank you, Mrs. McKnight. My name is Raymond Price. I'll be moderating the panel this afternoon, and you have noticed from your program there should have been two other panelists. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control, they are unable to join us. And what we are actually going to do is to have a merger of what should have been a standalone presentation by Mr. Long Lynch, who will be introducing himself shortly. We're going to merge that with the initial panel that you would have seen recorded, which would have had three other principals along with Mrs. Anona Hunter Jones. And we'll ask Anona now to introduce herself and then Mr. Lynch.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure my voice is low enough and carries, right? I see. I'm Anona Jones. I'm the principal of the Marcus Garvey Technical High School in St. Anne.
My name is Lawman Lynch and I'm an educator.
But I think you're required to tell us a bit more than that.
But I know that we're behind time.
So what we're going to do, you'll see on the display that the presentation that Mr. Lynch was going to be giving is the disciplinary realities affecting learning goals. And just to shape the panel and so that you understand the conversation that we'll be having, all of us would wish that a school would have been a sterile space, a space in which teachers and administrators show up and students then show up and the learning exchange happens free from interaction or interference with anything that happens outside of the physical space. I'm stressing physical space even though we've all emerged or re-emerged from COVID, where a smart device became a school because that is the facility through which persons are able to access learning. Outside of that ideal expectation, though, life has a way, as reality does, of happening. And sitting in this room are persons that you have heard representing a significant stretch of Jamaica's geography in terms of where the learning space is. Before I turn over to the panelists to give their main presentation, and then we do question and answer, because I think that would be the most beneficial approach to take so that we really enrich the process of our learning. I would just want to say that even if we had that kind of sterilization that was able to protect the physical learning space, our individuals, the teachers, as well as the students in particular come into the learning space with their entire memories and emotions that would have been impacted on where they live, their experiences en route to school. I would say it's, even though it usually causes a lot of rebuttal in this country, the kind of music and television series and images they are exposed to, and they bring that with them to the process. Increasingly, as well, schools have become as segmented as society is. So within some of our schools, even at the primary level, you have students who come from communities where those communities have one or more gangs or other types of associations, which then play out in schools. I do not think that there is one school in Jamaica that is spared from that reality. It either happens on the campus or sometimes at the transportation centers or at different gathering points en route to or from school. All of these things are real factors that will impinge on the success that you as educators have in impacting the information as per the curriculum. So I think it's an appropriate conversation to then understand that space, that hearing into which you speak, that brain into which you teach, and the other stimuli that affect or prevents success in exchange of information and for learning to take place. So with this, I will ask Mrs. Hunter Jones to give her overview, and then Mr. Lynch.
You'd see the conversation happening with your eyes. That's what happens when you're in association over 20 years. Norman and I entered education very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. We entered education at a time when we felt that everything was possible, and if we worked hard enough, long enough, passionately enough, then things would change and would be because of the passion that we had. And then we woke up and realized that there were many other factors that influenced education, and that we will always, as educators, be far more powerful together than we'll ever be apart. The reality, though, is when we talk about educators, we're not just talking about persons who would have graduated from a teacher training program. We're talking about the families being the first point of education, and the fact that many of our children come to us already having been educated. And in many instances, we struggled through the team in the Ministry of Education under then the transformation program to first of all quantify, qualify the learning that children come to school with. You see, the reality is they do bring who they are and who they think they are and who they would like to become to school. And these things are evidenced by behaviors. And the reality is many things that we thought should not happen within the space of school were things that they were being celebrated for at home. These were coping mechanisms to help them to survive the realities of their homes and their communities. So while I'll not go on much further, I want you to experience today's session through the lens of realizing that we're going to have what we like to call hot conversations. Honest, open, transparent conversations where we're going to say some things and step on a few toes and challenge some ways in which we assume some things. But at the end of it all, if learning is a change in behavior, we must first be able to describe what we think we're seeing. And it can't just be us, the educators, it has to also be through the eyes of the person demonstrating behavior. We then have to recognize that we can't say we want one thing but celebrate the very opposite of that thing, because that creates dissonance within the learning space. So if we say that we want things to start on time, be of a particular quality, and we facilitate things that are late or of low quality, then we're inadvertently reinforcing some behaviors. So as we dissect the current realities of the Jamaican education system, we like to think that discipline is not punishment. At the end of discipline, you understand what behavior you demonstrated, you know you had a choice, and you understand what other behavior would be more appropriate in that space or at that particular time. Marcus Garvey Technical High School, if you Google it, you'll see a very mixed review, but it does represent the realities of education in Jamaica and what we would like to think is education for some of the most vulnerable children in this country. So as a team leader for the SWAT team of education, we roll in when everything is going bad and we're the last line of defense for the most vulnerable children. We hope to participate in those hot conversations this afternoon and really keep truth, keep it positive, and really look forward to the things that are within our control, regardless of the powers that be. As Marcus Garvey said, we have to be the answers to our problems. No one is going to ride in and save us. So that is the lens through which I am looking, and definitely the heart from which I'll be speaking this afternoon.
Awesome. So I'm going to try and condense a 45-minute presentation in 5 minutes. All right. So, and please feel free to chime in as you will. Okay. So we need to understand what learning goals are, grasping what may hinder these learning goals, and also understand what learning loss is. Right? So that's basically the objective of this presentation. So what are learning goals? Learning goals are generally, goals that are desired achievements, what we want our students to achieve after with the basic school level, primary school level, high school, and so on, right? So it's all about excellence, building good habits, ethical reasoning, integrated literacies, critical thinking. All of these are learning goals, and normally learning goals are centered around the three main educational domains: the cognitive domain, the affective domain, and the psychomotor domain. Now, we'll all agree that the cognitive domain is important. We'll all agree that the psychomotor is important. They're all important, but I'm particularly impressed with the affective domain. If a child doesn't eat in the morning, more likely that child will not learn at school. If a child is told that they're black and ugly, more likely when they go to school, they're going to have that feeling. They're going to have low self-esteem, and it's going to affect the learning outcomes. So as educators within the classroom space, yes, we want them to learn math and English, but we also have to take into consideration the affective domain. How are they feeling today? Do you do SEL check-ins when they walk in the mornings? How did you sleep? Simple questions like that resonates with our children. All right. So what hinders learning goals? Negative past experiences. And I spoke earlier in a previous session about the ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. When a child wakes up in the morning and mommy and daddy fighting, it can affect the child. Child may not learn. Those are ACEs. Personal mindset, lack of purpose. Why am I here? All of these things will affect, it will hinder our learning goals. Also, a failure to plan, a failure to set goals will hinder your goals, right? So keep that into consideration. Learning loss. We spoke a lot about COVID-19, the pandemic. If we have lost time in school, that will affect our goals, right? And what I created this acronym ERASERS to kind of give a fulsome explanation of what learning loss is. The emotional factor, you're not mentally settled, lack of affection, self-doubt, it's all about emotions, right? Remunerative. Now, we know that sometimes if you live above crossroads, you have better access. When you live below crossroads, it's a little bit different. Now, we're trying to change that in society, but it's not always the reality. So, if the child cannot afford what we consider quality education, it affects their learning goals, right? Absence, skipping classes, illnesses. Not only that, we have children who help their parents in the market. They're not going to school because they are higglers at 8, 9, 10 years old. Affects their learning goals. Systems, the breaks. We have nothing to do with that. With our PT conferences, and this is specific to America to a large extent. When there are a lot of off days, it affects our children. The environment, natural disasters, COVID-19, it's learning loss, right? Resourcelessness, we spoke about that earlier. No tablets, no connectivity. Okay, we have the tablet, but we don't have the internet. It doesn't make sense. social issues, self-explanatory. So all of that together erasers, it contributes to learning loss. So it affects the child's learning goal, right? Common disciplinary issues, and this is what we really want to talk about in our education space. We do not have to go in detail because we see it on our phones every day. I live all the way in New York and I get the information minute by minute, blow by blow. Students fighting, students stabbing each other, students dying on school property. That was not a feature of our society before. It affects our the learning goals. It affects us psychologically. And if we're not mentally there, we're not going to learn, right? That's what we have to understand. So we need to improve discipline in our classroom. We need to listen to our students. We need to plan. We need to organize. And when I talk about planning and organizing, we can't blame the students all the time. Lesson content is extremely important. And the minister spoke earlier about having lesson plans done, so teachers have access to lesson plans. So no longer it should be a case where, a lesson plan wasn't done. But not only that, lesson delivery is also very important. If you do not want to be in the classroom, don't go in the classroom. Find a new field. Right? It's extremely important because it affects our students, it affects their learning goals. In this room today, I'm a primary school teacher. Miss Cunningham is here. She taught me at Jester River. Right? If I did not like my teachers, I would not be the person I am today. Right? Educators, if I didn't meet an educator like Anila Hunter Jones, Principal Jones, I would not be the person I am today. And by right, we're all educators. Principal Jones mentioned this earlier. The first point of contact as it relates to education of our children is in the home. So we have to be very mindful of that. I won't play this. I will not. I can wrap there.
All right. So, let me just say that apart from highlighting his primary school teacher and his study annual, Mr. Lynch, I'm putting this question officially, I should say, we're now in the conversation part of the panel, but I'm putting this out there that Lawman Lynch works at an institution called New York Edge. New York Edge is a facility or a company that is contracted by the New York government, New York State government, and it is an after-school care program. So there are several campuses across the New York area, and children will leave what we would basically say their regular school and be bused to a New York Edge facility where learning continues. It's primarily in areas that have Hispanic or Caribbean immigrants or their children, and it's also in areas that have some of the same socioeconomic profiles or attributes as a lot of Jamaica, except for the rural aspect of some of our communities here. So in that setting, you also have, and I think it's a unique experience that he can share as we go around it and have the conversation. In that setting, you have people from different schools who arrive at that venue and who also go through either issues of racism or classism or cross-community, I want to say violence, but cross-community feuds, right? And, so therefore, why I raise it is that being in a Jamaican state, we may believe that this is happening in Jamaica alone. I will say one other thing quickly is that I'm a part of a study that is looking on what will be the outcome of that black professional or that black citizen in 2035, because whether they're in Jamaica or in the Caribbean or in the United States or Canada, there's a particular coincidence, which is why there's a study being done. This is where it's a coincidence but we are very likely to see an outcome in black citizens across the world, especially those who are second or first generation children of immigrants from the Caribbean, because we seem to have a repeating situation, a recurring decimal, where they're in low income environments, high violence environments, and where that search for identity within our children causes them to, on one day they are Nicki Minaj, another day they are David Magnum, and some days they are Spice, or whoever their equivalent role model is. And that's one thing I have come to accept. You have very little control over who a child chooses as their role model, right? So with those remarks and just giving you that context as to the role the day job that Lomon has, I will now invite persons to contribute their concerns as educators or administrators, what you have to deal with a child in front of you who, in addition to being at school to learn, is at school because school is a respite or a respite or an escape. And sometimes they come to school contemplating the safest route home. And many students tell me, those on the PATH program, that school for them is their food for the day. And so that's your volunteering to bring your points across to the conversation.
Alright, so I was deemed bad. I was deemed not to count anything. I was deemed a rolling stone that gathered no mass. A teacher told my mother that if I did not change, I wouldn't be anything in life. And I put that in my essays. And I want that teacher right now because it's going to come to something. Now, as an adult, not just a teacher, what I do is to find the children who are misunderstood. And the first thing I do when I go to my class is to know my students, know who they are, know their needs. A lot of children come to school for love, that care, that thing that they are not getting at home. And as Lama said before, if you do not interact with your students, if you don't know your students, they are not going to learn. I remember going to a school in 2018 and I was told about this little boy in bad. He is busting on every negative thing that you could find in that book. I showed that boy love is not there, and I cried. And when I looked for him, the 21st of April 2022, down by KPH, when I came through the door, I couldn't come down the stairs. I just broke down. And when I reached, he said, "Miss, you come look for me?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Here, come to me." And I lied. I lied to him. He was able to recognize me. I showed him pictures and everything. He had brain cancer. And I knew he wouldn't survive. And I get attached to my students. My son, I will tell you, I get emotionally attached to them. I have 3 kids, the oldest being 25, and a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old. And they are very jealous of my students because I spend more time with my students than what I spend with my own kids. I should not still class today because I teach grade 6. When I told children that I'm not having Saturday class, I'm saying, "Mr. Ahmad, if I should keep class till 9, 10 o'clock in the nights, they are in class. I have to tell them at the time, go a home yard. Me live somewhere. They call me anytime. And because they trust me. And as I heard you say something earlier, it played on my conscience. There's a little girl in grade 3. Every day, she remember me. Yeah? And every day she leave her grade 3 class and she come, my mother, I'm mother, you know. She speaks standard patois. And I interact with her in the standard patois. I love to go down to my students and children's level. I wanted to know that I was one child. I played marble with them. We got keep ball time, you know, with everything with them. And one day, you know March and the Bear? Everybody watch March and the Bear? You know watch March and the Bear? My little annoying girl in first who have no parent. Every day she go to walk the bear. And that's that girl. Yeah, March and the Bear. And that's that girl. So one day I said to her, Jesus Christ, Marsha. And she said, what do you call me? Me no Marsha and the Bear. And I said, me don't mean it that way, yeah. And it sat with me because at that moment, Bear always around for Marsha trouble. At that moment, I said to myself, I am telling her that she is trouble. They said, I'm the only teacher on that compound that can speak to her. And she listens. When I'm speaking to her, I don't know if I do it yet. When you give a child eye contact, you don't have to open your mouth. You look them in the eyes. And they know exactly what you mean. You have to establish that from the first day you meet them.
Thank you.
You want to come in? Go ahead, Annie.
Thank you so much. I have a question. Do you think that school culture, the stories we tell about ourselves, those habits that we have, how we organize school, do you think that that can influence discipline in the school? The routines that we have. When you put lunch, how you keep devotions, when you arrive, the process they have to go through. Then why do we do what we do? If we know from authentic knowledge that how we organize the learning space may influence the child's behavior, why do we do what we do? Think about it. I'm at an institution that had a history of violence. History of violence. Why do we, if we say we know the children, we know where they come from, why do we pat them down in the morning? Open every bag. Why you go over there, sir? You put them out in the sun when the pants tight and they hear. That's your first experience in leaving home. You come to school late already and you stand for an hour in the sun. That's what I'm asking. Because if it is that discipline is what we want, do we have to traumatize children to get discipline? Do you understand where I'm going? The routine of school, and I just want everybody to think about what is the routine of school. If you walk into a classroom when no one is there to greet you, if you walk into a classroom and the first thing someone says is later, they stand outside. Do you understand what I'm saying? You remember, there is no child that is supposed to buy their own uniform. They're not supposed to buy their own shoes. They're not supposed to buy their own socks. If it is that I'm leaving from a community where the older men in my community are saying, you have fish, you can't say over yourself, and you have surfers, and you have girl clown, do we understand that your clothes are your armor? It's the costume that you wear to be able to act on stage of your community. And it is very much appropriate. And these are some of the things that when we talk about discipline and behavior that I really want us to start to think about. Because when we sit silent in the staff rooms and there are these conversations because we can't bother, do we understand that children need a champion? That we have to open our mouths and say, why are we doing this? And like I tell them, which is my closing comment here, the day when teachers start to walk into my office with the same passion about a child having no book, no pencil, and having written nothing at the end of the day, like they come with the hair and the shoes, that is when I know education is going somewhere in Jamaica. I want the same kind of passion, the same kind of message can work. Something needs to happen because I can't believe the people who have my suitcase and the book here empty. Message can't happen. Call the parents because Rome is burning. And even if you have a spoon, there is a place for it. But it cannot be that we're more concerned with the other things than we are about learning. And if I've learned nothing else at Marcus Garvey Technical High School, learning is the greatest tool to change in discipline. People with a learner give the same kind of problem. Children who are learning. So my question to you, when was the last time you had a tough conversation and pushed back? Yes. Question, when was the last time you had a tough conversation about defending a practice in your school that would truly lead to learning? Not just avoiding bad behavior, but truly lead to learning. When was the last time and what was that kind of conversation?
Agree with you, but still a little waver. Meaning that children live what they learn. And again, we talk about parental involvement and we put rules at the school gate and we begin with the parents. I want to understand that if we, though as educators, don't nip it in the bud as we say from previous time, are we saying anything goes in your dress code? Because if you're going to discipline them, they will have an acceptable behavior that I can go as I am or I can operate in the same space as I am. Because we know that education, we want to teach them the right way. But at the same time, as you said, your outward garment is the armor. And we have to mentally educate them how to break the community, yes, that they are coming from, to say, if I look this way, I am acceptable, because we know how it feels. And I'm saying, the question I'm asking, are you saying that as educator, should we stop, watch their appearance and just go on with our lesson? Because some children say, but you say rules, you must come like this, you must wear everything, you must have the bleacher skin, blah, 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 and parents no spaghetti dress, whatever, and then when they come in the classroom, them I already let blood because of some of the experience, because them have smoke them weed, and them have disturbed the class there, so it's kind of a little edgy for me, please. I want to know.
Yeah, we're going to unpack that in a minute.
With what she said, that's what I want to follow up with. When she said about nitpicking the bud, it brings me back to what Auntie had said before. She's saying that we should not penalize the students because they do not control, like they don't earn their own living, they're not the ones to buy what they're wearing. No one might use is the parents provide everything for them. So I think with the correcting and all of that, we should really start with the parents. So we should not be penalizing those students. So even if they're coming with tight pants, bleach short face, teach your children, please. It's the parents we're dealing with. And again, I have parents that too, they're not involved.
No, we're gonna unpack it. We're gonna unpack it. We're gonna unpack it.
Um, I was listening to you when I taught high school, and my strategy with the trouble students, the ones who decide not to wear the correct uniform, is I get to know them so well, we understand each other, and they decide that they will follow rules. And shouting at them and embarrassing them is not going to work. It is never going to work, because they are people too, even little babies, little preschool, they are people, they have personalities, and we have to remember that. So I try to get to know the students, and we have an understanding that, rules are rules. School have certain rules, you may not like them, but once you are here, you just have to adhere. Simple.
Alright, just because we're going to come back to our panelists for the closing. I just want to point out that there is a community advocate present as well in the audience, Tamara Reynolds. She came in after we started, and the concept of a school beyond its perimeter is an important concept that I believe we should spend some time on. A lot of our communities used to have adults along the route, and that has been removed. A lot of our communities now have beached faces along the route. The tight pants, it's interesting because when I attended high school, if you wore tight pants to St. George's College, you would not have been lauded. Today, the reverse happens if your pants is not tight. So the norms in society, which are always an extension of an individual's personality, is something that is very different today than it was then. Our teaching institutions still really uphold the same curricula that I would have had, the same strategies of classroom behavior management that I would have gone through when I did my teaching diploma. Is basically the same standards of classroom behavior management today. One of our members made mention of the things that our students watch, and that also influences. So I think I'll find around the question if we can push some more time and maybe extend to 10 more minutes before our panelists wrap up. A lot of you have mentioned parents and parenting, but I believe the concept of parenting has changed. I'm not going to typify by specific reference to cultural icons, but they suffice it to say the concept of parenting has changed. When I was a teenager, you call an adult sir. I'm an adult now, teenagers call me chopper. Killer, murderer, dog. Well, no, I'm fine with brother. If everybody said brother, I am good. But it's a chopper. And the females call each other dog as well. I've heard high school girls, goody, dolly, dog, goose. And so we have to maybe coming out of this panel as we speak into the conclusion and what will be published from this summit. We should bring a recognition forward that the way we tutor our tutors, the way we teach our teachers, how we prepare them to go into the learning space has to be refreshed culturally so that they don't suffer a culture shock when they leave the hallowed halls of Michael, etc., and go into the humble classrooms of their primary schools. So, yes, go ahead.
And I'm straying slightly off of what you said, but I need some clarity because I heard that there are principals other than Mrs. Jones here. As the dean hosting at Marcus Garvey, I would pretty much have conversations with almost every student we consider to be bad. But what I've come to understand is that many students are out of their purpose. in the sense that you force me to do several subjects that are primarily language-based, reading, math, everything. And I might not be a school giving trouble, and I might be informed enough to hear that's all right. Immaculate is the best school in the country because they have X amount of CXC passes. But Marcus Garvey is not because they only had X amount of CXC passes. I think fundamentally something is wrong with what we consider success. You tell me that I'm failing because I cannot pass the CXC. And my benchmark is English, math, social studies, etc. But the man who sits in this lofty place with this fancy degree needs a type to be changed. He has to call me. The man who made all these tables collects a pretty sum of money. But the education system that we're in teaches us that success is when I pass the CXC. When are we going to get to the place as a sector, schools, where vocations are a thing? As Canada pretty much is recruiting all of our persons with skills. So I think not only as teachers, as a sector, we need to get to the place where we need to tell our students, hey, sex is a thing, it is important. But if you're acting outside of, if you're not competent here, this is an option. It should not be a case where it's pushed to the back and away don't take you and do woodwork and electrical and auto mechanic. My front end part needs to change. My front end part needs to change. The parts alone is 25,000. And God bless how much more money is going to cost me just to pay them and to change them. If you buy your vehicle at ATL, you have to order fancy vehicle, the others one that you may drive, BMWs. To change the shocks alone, you have to pay a hefty sum of money to get it done. So I think we need, as a country, to get to the place where as a student, hey, what English not work for you. These are some other options. As I had a young man in grade 8 who said to me, sir, they might teach me English every day. I waste my wasting time. I want to be an electrician. Time them away, sir.
No, the point is very valid, and you scored the point exceptionally when you mentioned that if you see all these advertisements where Canada is trying to populate segments of its society, I've not seen any special category requiring environmental scientists. I've seen categories requiring plumbers, electricians, and mechanics, masons, and stuff like that. So that's a valid point. How do we reconstitute the concept of academic success? Maybe we need to repopularize vocational success and not just plaster the label STEM Academy or STEM, because again, communication is not successful if the person who hears it does not understand what the person who's speaking is talking about. So final intervention from a group member, and then we close with the panel because I see the groups for the other session gathering to my left.
Good afternoon. In terms of parenting and where discipline is concerned, and we will say what would happen way back in the day is far from what is being happening now. If we realize that the parents and grandparents of today were children of yesteryear, what I'm trying to say is that it's children having children. They themselves are not disciplined. They themselves need to be disciplined. They themselves need to know the value or the core values of education and other necessities to make the world a better place. It is so the burden lies on us as educators, and we are down there in the grassroots, and if we start bringing them up from down there at the grassroots level, by the time they reach high school and tertiary institutions, they will be a better nation. We can't live with the parents anymore.
Let me segue on that note with my closing remarks. Children are smarter than we give them credit for, and they are far more intellectually dexterous than we give them credit for. They are children who have
personality, a role personality, a school personality, and a church personality. Maybe what we need to be constant, a social media personality. Maybe what we need to be doing is to arm the children with multiple personalities, like we arm them with multiple skills and teach them where to put on which one. And that's a part of the challenge. In relation to setting minimum standards, there is a thing called appropriate. And that is where my idea comes in. If when you come to my gate and I ask you, what do you want to do? Tell me one place that you think you want to work. And you say to me you want to work at Sandals. I say Sandals has a corporate image. Do you plan to adhere to the corporate image of Sandals to keep the job at Sandals? You will have to conform. So the education starts at the gate, but it is in context. Because I cannot roll up in certain places dressed a particular way it's considered appropriate. So you wouldn't wear a suit necessarily to the beach. It would not be considered appropriate. So as we look at 21st century education, we have to look beyond the academics to the kind of emotional intelligence that helps you to manage your emotions and demonstrate them in an appropriate way. It is the kind of skills that you need to be able to pick one and demonstrate it appropriately, and to help children to have more tools in their toolbox so that they can use what is necessary in context and it will be called appropriate.
As I close, I want to echo what Principal Jones just said. However, as we think about code switching, maybe we have to think of personality switching as well. I believe that within the education space, we have to understand that our students are from multiple social, economic backgrounds, that we have to take that into consideration and contextualize whenever we're interacting with our students and our parents. Because if we look at education and whole school development, we have to consider the person who sells at the street at the school gate. We have to consider the janitors, the ancillary workers, the parents, community leaders. All of those categories have to be considered when we think of developing our children. So we should continue this conversation. We'll be around, so feel free to just walk up and we'll talk.
All right, thank you very much. And as we go ahead, as we close, just bear the following in mind. If you want to predict the society you live in 10 years' time, investigate experiences that teenagers are dealing with on a daily basis. That connection, I think, is what is missed, because our intervention re-educating children would be different if we realize that our interventions were actually investments in our own future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, good afternoon. We're getting ready to start the second session. This is one with we have the global teachers ambassadors. So if you could just have the front half, so we can have I think we have 6 panelists, and everyone else you're welcome to stay. Please don't leave. Okay, good afternoon. All right, my name is Damian Drummond, and I'll be your moderator this afternoon. The group that we have here, the teacher ambassadors, and we should have a group of 6. I'll allow them to go in the room and introduce themselves. But before we go, I'll just give you a little bit about me. I'm invited here. I've been a part of the US League for quite a while. Often I spoke, this time I'm moderating. I've often taken a different platform. By profession, I'm a track and field coach. I'm the head track and field coach at Lindenwood University that's in Missouri. Currently, I like the stance that I have. I consider myself an educator because I receive those students that migrate to the States and also that finish high school in the United States, and I have a chance to continue what foundation was laid or to build or influence. So I take great pride in, listening to some of the discussions so far through this convention. Pretty much in summary, as leaders, we're going to lead by example because the lights are always on, the cameras are always on. So for me, I'm also by nationality Jamaican. I take pride in the education that I received here. I migrated to the States when I was 14 years old. I'm a product of Jamaica College. I'm a product of one of the best coaches in Jamaica, I think, Michael Clark. He's on our club bar. I also have the pleasure of being other Jamaican teachers when I migrated to the States, such as Ms. Vassal, who taught Spanish. And one of my favorite teachers is Dr. Linda Johnson in college, which, as I said, I was a smart student, but we all go through challenges. And I'm one of those students that, yes, I feel a subject matter in college. And I had one teacher look me in the eyes and say, hey, your smile and charm will make you pass this class. But she taught me how to do it again, and I was successful the second time. So I take pride in having great teachers before me, great pride in knowing, great ambassadors, and so I just want to move forward and get to the real reason why we're here. So at this point, I'm pretty much going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves and give us your feedback of, what is it that you do and how you plan to impact the global community, both within your country and other countries. So I'll start with you on my left, and I'll allow you to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Delegates. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm now a teacher, so I work at a university to help teachers become a better teacher. But before I was teaching the mechanical engineers, they were in the age of 16 until 25. I'm not technical at all, so I teach them other stuff, not technical stuff. I see people like, whoa, technical, no, that's not me. But I'm the initiator of the Talent Passport. And the Talent Passport is an online growth document in which students can show who they really are as a person. So now the education system is all about grades. So you grade children, and as you get the diploma, you have the grades, and that's it. But the grades, they don't tell you how the children really are as a person. They don't show qualities, they don't show talents, they don't show like really cool projects. And the Talent Passport, they really can show talents, and they show the qualities and the projects where they're good at. And so I initiated that, and there are a few schools that are actually using it already. And the cool thing is that the students, they use it to get a job. So instead of a resume or grades, they send the Talent Passport to a company to get a job. And the companies were so happy with that. They said, well, for the first time, we don't see like a resume like everybody else and a few grades. For the first time, we see who the students really are. And now they can make a better match in the labor market. And also for an internship, but also to get a job. And the companies and the students are really happy. So for the companies, it's a really good thing, but also for the students, because for the first time, the focus is on what they can do instead of what they can do. And you see students grow and learn, have self-confidence, and they can really tell what their qualities and talents and dreams are. They can put that all in the Talent Passport. And the most important thing is that it belongs to the students. So it's not a school product. School will help them to develop it, to grow, to build it, to make it all together. So all the teachers work together to build it up. And then it's all theirs. So after school, they can still keep using it to get a job, to grow, to learn, to do other studies. So again, to make a better match in the labor market. And we see it works, and it's really cool to see, how students grow and learn. So that's actually my thing, and that's why I got in the Global Teacher Prize Top 15 with Keisha. So I'm very proud of this amazing group. And next to me, we have Diana.
Hello, my name is Diana. I'm from Mexico, and I am a STEM teacher. I am focused in scientific skills because I believe that if the students can have deeper questions, they can be more curious about. And I think that one of the most important things is that you empower teachers for select science. Around the world, we only have 3% of women in science, and in technology is less than 30%. So I improve the students, and I create a STEM club with my students and extra class, and I believe that the students go through academics skills, but more than this is the intellectual virtues. For me, the most important is the intellectual virtues because, for example, curiosity is the starter to lifelong learning. So for this reason and for the reasons, I teach some teachers about the character, about the intellectual virtues, and I have a program for my country because I work in high school, and we have a lot of schools in every stage in my country. So I introduced the teachers for science because they believe that science is a very complex subject. Many people say, "Oh, science is a lab," but not necessarily. Science is in whatever place. I personally come from rural area, and I'm a neuroscientist. I go to the science by accident, but my students develop the right skills for science, and they can choose whoever they want. And I think many students have the potential to be better science for resolve the big problems. So, thank you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Evans Bode. I'm from Ghana in West Africa, and I'm a mathematics teacher. I've been teaching maths for the past 22 years, and my school currently is at Chimota Senior High School in Ghana, one of the most exceptional schools we have in the country. In fact, it is a very great school actually. And for the past 22 years as a teacher, what I do is to empower students to love maths. Because at a point in time, I realized that students are not, they don't like the subject. They see maths to be very weird. Maths to be something that has no bearing, it has no meaning. To them, maths should be taken away. If you bring 20 students right now and ask them, should we include mathematics in our subject, they will tell you. Most of them will tell you, no, they wish they could take it out. And so what I did that brought me to the global teacher prize level is creating maths clinic. A maths clinic, what I did was to find out some challenges that make students find it difficult to do the subject. And so I realized that there are some basic concepts that they are lacking. I also realized that they don't have the connection. Math has no connection to everyday life. So what can I do to make mathematics part of their everyday life? Let them see mathematics as everyday language that they speak. Let them know that math has a lot of applications in life. And so math clinic actually made math clinic, so make students appreciate the subject and see the relevance in learning it. And so I use basic materials to model the concept of mathematics. I use technology to make it very fun and interesting for them. And I organize free class for them just to come and then understand the concept of math. And so that is what I do. So I realized that, okay, talk of STEM, mathematics is to be part of it. And so why can't I organize STEM bootcamp to bring students who are less privileged, especially those in the interior, the as a community to really come to the full knowledge of the concept of STEM, and so they can learn and then accept it. So we organize STEM bootcamp for students, especially at the villages, so that they will appreciate the subject. And most we're targeting girls. We realize that girls don't like the STEM, and so we're bringing them together and we're training them, and then also training teachers to understand that if we don't make maths interesting for the kids, they will not like it. And so I developed this relational learning, and so I train teachers, telling them that, okay, if your student can love you and appreciate you, they will surely accept the subject you teach. But if they don't like you, they wouldn't like the subject. So they should make themselves available for students to appreciate them, get closer to them, so they can influence them to learn the subject mathematics. And that's what I've been doing for so many years now. And it's amazing that I was spotted at that Canada as part of the top 10 panelists of the Global Teacher Prize. Thank God Foundation for making me reach this far. Thank you.
Well, hello, my name is Ana Maria Estelman. I am a teacher of primary school, and I don't speak English, so I am going to speak in Spanish, and they are going to help me. Yo trabajo en una escuela primaria del sector público que se encuentra en la periferia de la ciudad de La Plata, provincia de Buenos Aires.
Ana Maria works in a primary school. She's found in the La Plata province on the periphery of Buenos Aires.
Bien, yo llegué a este certamen, el Global Teacher Prize, realizando prácticas innovadoras con niños muy pequeños, con muy pocos recursos, y tomando como base la necesidad de que la escuela tome con empatía, que el maestro sea empático, observador de la realidad de los chicos para poder despertarles todas sus habilidades.
She got the Global Prize winner for young practices in education, working with little children or young children with very little to no resources, and enforcing this approach towards teaching that emphasizes a lot of empathy, holding the student at the center as they approach, taking into account their backgrounds, their needs, where they're coming from, and meeting them where they are.
En el desarrollo de mis clases parto de la realidad de los chicos, trato de hacer que circule la pregunta en el aula, que se animen a preguntar, que se animen a investigar, y no me posiciono en el lugar del maestro que sabe todas las respuestas. No intento mostrarme capacitada para resolver todo, sino que lo que trato de que ellos aprendan a través del desarrollo del pensamiento crítico, empiecen a aprender a buscar sus propias respuestas y a no tener miedo de equivocarse. Los chicos con los que yo trabajo tienen muy pocos recursos. En la escuela no tengo internet, las computadoras funcionan muy pocas o funcionan mal, así que parto de la realidad de ellos y busco que ellos encuentren en la escuela una gran puerta al mundo. Trato de que ellos salgan de esa realidad que tienen viendo otras posibilidades. Thank you very much.
Okay, is that it? We'll be missing two, but we're gonna move along. More.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I was on the piano. My name is Jessica Lander. I am a teacher in Lowell, Massachusetts, in the United States, up north. And I have the honor of teaching recent immigrant and refugee students from about 30 different countries, from Colombia to students from Jamaica, from students from the Democratic Republic of the Congo to Cambodia. And in my class, my students are doing remarkable things, both in supporting each other as they build new homes and new lives in our country, and also in the ways that they are teachers and leaders, not just in our classroom, but in our community. And so they are writing books that are transforming our community. They are impacting policies in our community and in our state. And they are really being teachers, not just in Lowell, but in Massachusetts, not just in Massachusetts, but across the country. And it is so inspiring to work with them every day. And that has led me to do both work with them. So one project that we're doing is my students and I set out to create more space for students across the country to feel a strong sense of belonging in their community. And so we actually co-created a national project where we're creating space for students to share stories of self that they will share in their community through books that they write and share on a website for anyone anywhere in the world to listen to and learn from. And I get to do this every day with my students and former students, that we are co-working on this, and where students are mentoring teachers across the country as teachers then work with students. And at the same time as doing that, I've also been really curious about how educators here, educators across the world are working to create schools that nurture a strong sense of belonging for immigrant origin students. And so 3 years ago, I set out across the country to learn from others. And for the last 3 years, I've been working on a book. I'm thinking about how we can reimagine immigrant education. And the book came out in October, which is very exciting. But that's the work that excites me every day, thinking about how we support our immigrant origin students in all of our countries and making sure that they feel a strong sense of belonging as they create new homes and new lives in countries across the world. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for those lovely introductions. I'm going to move forward. I just want to bring some grounds to where we are right now. I'm just going to ask a couple questions for panelists. Normally we make it wide open, but for the sake of time, I'm going to pick on a few of you guys, and if we have time remaining, we'll make it wide open, and hopefully we have some time left for those in the audience as well. So I'm going to pick on Mr. Evans because he's a math guy, and I'm the track coach with Keeper of Time, so math is a part of my daily routine. All right. So just give us how has the pandemic affected your practice in the classroom?
Right. I believe that we all know that the pandemic has really changed a whole lot, right from our homes, the school, the society, everywhere we see drastic change. And as a teacher in classroom, we used to propagate teaching online, but then as COVID-19, we didn't take it serious. But then COVID-19 came and realized that no, the thing we talk about, we have to take a second look at it and see. And so I believe that pandemic has really become one way advantageous and then disadvantageous at the same time. It has really pulled us out of pull us out of our comfort zone and to go beyond here. So to look at the use of technology to teach in our classrooms. So I believe that it has really brought us a lot of opportunities so we can learn. Before the COVID-19, I used to teach my students and I would give them video lessons. I told them, okay, take this video lesson home and learn what's on vacation. But then COVID-19 made me to believe that I can do it and do it better. Sure. So I think it has really brought a lot of change, and we need to embrace the changes that it comes with and be prepared to help our students to go beyond. Thank you.
most important was the emotional support for my students because the pandemic was a very negative phase for all the world. I think that emotional support, and in my case, in my school, many young girls abandoned school. So I think that many of the young women, catch the role, the social role, like mothers, take care about the children. Yes. And for me, I used the technology previously, but in this case, it was very useful, and now, not bad. I think that is the most important, that they have free access to the content and be more flexible for the young women, because it's the same for me. I'm a mom. I have two daughters, and I have many different challenges. And now my students have the same challenge at an early age. So I think that emotional support and this kind of activities to be more flexible with the women is the most important thing that I learned about the pandemics.
Okay. I was trying to get you guys something right there, so I'm going to move along again. I'm going to challenge you now. All right. This next question, pretty much, just want to learn what are some of the valuable lessons you learned in education that basically from the pandemic has been somewhat of a challenge. So let me broad base it out. So what I'm looking for is valuable lessons in education that you learned from the pandemic and how you plan to tackle those challenges.
I think we have to, as a teacher, we have to adjust to the students, because before and after COVID, it's like two different type of classes. It's like completely different. So we have to check where they are right now. And after COVID, I had to do like 10 steps back, not only with my courses, but also with social skills. So I just had to start from the beginning, like 2 years back in time, and just start all over. So we have to adjust to the children, to the students. That's the first. And the second is the evaluation goes really, really fast. You have now ChatGPT and other stuff, and the teachers sometimes think it's difficult to adjust to the situation. And we educate all children for jobs that don't even exist yet. So it's really difficult to give them the right education. So we constantly have to adjust to the kids, to the situation, to the environment, to all the new stuff that are coming. So that's really important as a teacher. And then if you come to one point, I think the most important point to me is the relationship. I just told you, a kid doesn't learn from somebody they don't like. Especially after COVID, they were alone, they were searching, they were fighting. Then they're finally back in school, and they need to be seen, they need to be looked after for. So the relationship, I think, is the most important thing. It's normal maybe, but after COVID, it's more important than it was before.
En mi caso, el desafío estuvo planteado a partir de la inexistencia de la tecnología. Entonces, el desafío fue encontrar a los chicos, tratar de ubicar a los papás y empezar a trabajar con la familia. Hubiera sido imposible de otra manera poder trabajar. Y como decía hoy Diana, la parte emocional, el sostén emocional fue la base de mi trabajo. Como la escuela en la que trabajo está en el barrio del hipódromo, está ubicado el hipódromo en la ciudad de La Plata, y las familias están vinculadas al trabajo que se realiza en el hipódromo, propuse un proyecto de trabajo con caballos.
where she was located, most of the families, they were closely, based on the location of their houses, there was some connection, and that kind of stimulated her to start a project, her epic project, I must say, of using horses to take the work to the students who were not connected.
Y ahí empezó mi segundo desafío, que fue el que me permitan trabajar en plena pandemia en el hipódromo. Porque era un hipódromo, porque era presencial, y realmente lo que me ayudó fue la fuerza de las familias, porque las familias conocían el lugar, era un lugar cercano para ellos, y entonces me acompañaron. Y les pude dar clases a los chicos que no tenían ningún tipo de conectividad con la escuela.
So the other challenge was actually getting permission to be at this racetrack, to actually have classes. She said because it was a place that was new to the parents, they knew the area, and so she got their support. And so what essentially happened was having classes for the children who had no kind of internet connectivity and delivering lessons right there.
Thank you.
I just want to build on that. I think about the importance of families. That there's a lot of research out there that says family engagement is essential for student success. When schools have strong family engagement, strong partnerships with families, we see test scores go up, we see graduation rates go up, we see behavior go down, we see teachers' reported happiness go up and teacher retention go up. And yet many schools don't yet know how to do strong family engagement. What I found in the pandemic, in looking at some of the schools that I was visiting across the country, was some of the schools that had real success had really strong engagement with families, real strong partnership with families. And that became essential when students were sent home in the U.S. Because now families were helping them get into classes and the primary teacher. Families are, of course, the primary and first and most important teacher for students. But here in academic setting in school, they became an essential collaborator that schools can no longer ignore. And so schools that were particularly successful were those that had already built really strong, respectful, trust, and collaborative relationships with families. I think from that, one thing that we should hopefully be taking away is this strong reminder of the importance of families in our schools and how do we create collaborative relationships with families where it is two-way, where it is honoring all of the strengths and all the knowledge that families bring, where families feel welcome in schools, and it's a true two-way partnership. And so I think for me, that's one of the most exciting things about the coming out of the pandemic is it's really spotlighting the importance of family engagement. And now the work we have to do is support schools and educators in thinking about how we then create those systems where we're building strong collaborative family engagement.
Lovely response. These teachers are smart, y'all. They're ahead of me. So my next question, actually, you already started the answers to it. And pretty much what I want to know is what are some of your best classroom practices or practices in your country that you hope to share that other teachers can adopt? And I think I'll take I'm ready with this one because it's based in your population. I'd love to hear your response.
Bueno, mi práctica docente tiene una impronta muy particular que es partir de las inquietudes de los chicos. Y creo que eso sería lo que yo quisiera dejar como material para compartir. A veces surgen las inquietudes de ellos mismos, otras veces yo los guío para que tengan esa inquietud y me baso para que encuentren las respuestas en la comunidad, en los recursos que tienen en su entorno, en la universidad pública, en los padres. Entonces ellos ahí tienen dónde empezar a preguntar y empezar a reforzar su valor, ¿verdad? Que ellos puedan confiar en que ellos son capaces de crecer y de aprender.
Essentially, her collaborative approach. And the affected is very important, catering to their emotional state of being and having that empathy and that care for the children. That approach she has used that has informed her practices, which resulted in their best practices.
O sea que desde lo que es la práctica docente, la importancia es la mirada del maestro, que pueda ver a todos los chicos, pueda sentir qué es lo que les pasa, porque el aprender también tiene mucho que ver con eso, saber si ellos están bien como para poder aprender. Entonces, la diferencia la hace el docente en la escuela.
The other practice she talks about is the way in which teachers look at their students. So each student should be viewed as individual to them. She says that is essential to then be getting to the point of success. So that was another essential practice that she says, and believing that
Y estar atentos a qué es lo que preguntan, porque uno desde un adulto por ahí le parecen preguntas obvias, pero justamente es a partir de esas preguntas obvias que ellos hacen que uno puede llegar a desarrollar contenidos en donde uno puede ir entrelazando todas las áreas de trabajo del currículum de la escuela.
Oh, I'm so sorry. She's saying that you are to be very attentive as well to the types of questions that the students ask, because they have inquisitive minds, and this can allow you as a teacher to delve into aspects of the curriculum that can respond to these questions. And it doesn't matter how the questions come, there is something in it for you to take as a teacher to build on for these students. And so questioning and listening to their questions becomes very important. All questions are important for the children.
Thank you.
Any others can share?
I want to share, and maybe it's helpful. I create a same club, but I collaborate with high school and college. My students have the opportunity to interact with university teachers, but actually they have a trajectory academic because in other cases many of my students didn't know the university and they said no, I don't want to study university, this is very difficult, and I try to make a gap between high school and university and research centers, because role models, they need role models to believe that they can make this. And other thing that is important in this club is that we can make engineering with piece of paper, and we make science with very cheaper materials. So wherever teacher in wherever context can make can develop scientific thinking and design thinking, that is very important for 20th century skills. And other part of my club is with university volunteers for primary school, for preschool and primary school. So the university volunteers have the skills that need for university, but I think that this social connection is because in many cases when we are in school we make mistakes, and in sometimes I say I'm not really good for science, I'm not really good for engineering, and the university students have the feeling to connect with the students more than a teacher. And this is a reason because I have taught those, one for high school and university, and the other one for university volunteers for basic schools, always with low cost. I think that I can share with you if you use.
Jessica, I would love to hear from you actually. I think based on your background being in Boston, but pretty much touching 30 different countries, you said?
So the idea of practice that I wanted to talk about is the ways in which we can engage our young people as civic leaders in our community. So a lot of the work I do as a history and civics teacher is in action civics. And the way I like to describe it, and Evans and I were talking about this, is if you think about science, the best way to learn science is to go to the lab. And it's hard to imagine thinking about teaching, say, chemistry without a lab component. Yet often we think about teaching civics by just reading about civics, learning about civic knowledge, which is really, really important. But if we really want to educate and hopefully nurture really active, engaged citizens, we need them learning the skills to be active, engaged citizens, and so actually practicing the doing of civics. And so one of the things that I find really powerful about some of the work that my students do is the ways in which they collaborate with each other to engage in action civics in their community. So in about 2 weeks, my students are going to do empathy interviews in the community, and they're going to tackle and identify one community challenge they care about as a team, as a class. And then they're going to learn about the root causes of that problem, and they're going to identify a goal. They're going to learn about the target, who's in power in their community that can affect change on that issue. And then what are the tactics they can use to actually implement change on that issue. And we're not just going to learn about those steps, they're actually then going to put it into practice. So my students will go out and do surveys. They will write memos. They will conduct meetings and try to get supports. And the work that my students have done has been just tremendously inspiring. They have, say, tackled food insecurity, seeing that students didn't have access to food pantries in their community because of the time and location, and then worked with community partners to open up a food pantry in our school that's running 6 years later and has become a model that's spread across the district. There are so many different ways our students can and should be getting involved in the civic life of our communities outside of our schools, and that's going to strengthen our countries. And so I think for me, one of the things I'm really excited about are teaching students ways to share and raise their voice and create change, because they really, really are excited about creating positive change in the community. They just don't know how always. And so can we provide them the skills to be able to be the change makers that we need in our community and in the future?
Okay, using my mathematical background, we have just about 12 minutes of our time. I think it's only fair that we. Okay, so someone maths is off. So I want to sum this thing up, but I want to give each of you guys the opportunity to kind of go around the room. So what we'll do is go around the room one more time and just share your vision for the future. Basically, what education will look like for you 10 years from now. Just a small question. 30 seconds. 90 seconds.
Okay.
Do it.
Just what I started about talents, I started about skills, and I told you about the companies and the jobs that will come up and we don't even know about. So we are training our kids for jobs that don't even exist. So the skills and qualities are the most important thing. So to me, in the future, we don't get grades anymore. Children can just pick the courses they want. They can just do them in their own pace, and then we get qualifications about skills, qualities, growth, learning, and together we put that, of course, in the talent passport. And with the talent passport, you can get a job. Sorry, that's to me education in 10 years. No grades anymore, only talents and skills.
All right. So what I want to say is, for the future of education, I want to see our students be more responsible for their learning, be ready to accept challenges, and be ready to solve problems in their society. If every student will see a problem as a problem that I can solve, then the child will be willing to go that extra mile to find solution to that problem. And so I want to see students be more responsible, problem solvers, critical thinkers. Yeah, that's what I want to see the future of our education.
What I want to see is connected classes. Teachers connected. Maybe we do. My students can teach and my students can learn.
yo estoy trabajando con la primera parte del camino de aprendizaje de los niños, así que creo que la escuela primaria es donde empiezan a aprender, donde empieza todo, ¿no? Así que lo que diría es que espero que no dejen, que la sociedad no deje solo a los maestros y, y que, bueno, que todos tenemos responsabilidad en la formación de las nuevas generaciones y lo que tenemos que hacer es escuchar, mirar a los ojos y responder con el corazón.
She is at the very first stage of the students' lives, primary level, and so her vision for education for all, for teachers and for parents, for schools, for communities, is for us to see the children where they are, listen to them. Yes, look at them with their eyes, look directly into their eyes, and respond with our hearts.
Thank you.
I just want to echo all of this amazing wisdom, and so I'm just nodding throughout it. I think I will add, and I think about my own students from the 30 different countries. Our students have tremendous strengths. I think about my immigrant origin students, and they bring such a wealth of strengths to our classroom. They're linguistic and cultural translators for their families, and navigators for their families. They bring tremendous grit and determination that has been grown over years of living in multiple countries. They bring a wealth of perspectives, having lived in multiple countries, learning through multiple historical systems, cultural systems, religious systems, and they bring such a diversity of opinions. I want to see schools that recognize all of those strengths, that celebrate all of those strengths, that invest in all of those strengths. I think our schools do a tremendous job in recognizing and celebrating certain strengths, but not yet all. And our students have so many strengths and assets, and I would love to see, and I hope to see that in the next 10 years, maybe even the next 5 years, let's bring that timeline up, that schools are really intentionally valuing, investing in, and celebrating the many strengths of all of our students.
So if we combine this, we have the perfect school for 10 years.
All right, so that brings us to the end. So what I want to do is I was here scribbling stuff, and one of the things that stood out, each and every one of you basically said we need to engage our students. All right, we need to look them in the eyes, we need to make that connection. I was in a group earlier in the same room, and that was the main takeaway. Look the student in the eyes and kind of meet them where they are, bring them where they need to go. So in summary, what I got from all you lovely teachers is this in one sentence. 10 years from now, this is what the future will look like. We're going to look at the students, so we're going to see the students where they are by looking in their eyes. What we'll see is cultural trendsetters with no grades, just talents and skills, critical mind thinkers, and great character education from teachers all across the United States and abroad. Any questions? Yeah. Thank you guys for attending, and best of luck to everyone.
Here? Okay, hold on. I'm coming. Not scooting anymore. Okay, now we're here. What's the picture of the headers happening? Apparently it's right there. So it usually it's teachers, students supporting each other, talking with each other, translating for each other, helping me, but it's also recognizing that it's exciting because it also is exciting to watch students helping each other. I'll show you a book. I bought a couple copies for us. Okay, then let me grab a book.
I am having a problem. I can't find an email I sent you guys.